Dan Crenshaw has lost a ton of support in the freedom community, and if you've ever wondered to yourself why that is, we're going to go over some of the things in this video. This isn't going to be an exhaustive list of everything that he's ever said or done that's negative, but it's just going to be a few of the quick points, a few of the major transgressions that people like me have lost support for him over. So we're going to try to keep this short and sweet. I'm not going to argue the merits or the pros and cons of these individual bills, but all the bills that I do list on here, I did go through and actually read the entire bill myself. I suggest you do the same and form your own opinion on them. I'll always respect Dan for his service to this country as a Navy SEAL. But as far as his service as a congressman, I think he's anti-freedom at this point, so kind of lost my support there. So without further ado, let's get into it. First one on my list here is so on episode number 1630 of the Joe Rogan podcast, Rogan asked Dan Crenshaw about the passport, and he did kind of the typical politician thing and spent about 10 minutes going around in a circle to ultimately wind up at saying, well, you know, obviously it's a bad idea. But it took him 10 minutes of talking in a circle to kind of say that. But it doesn't line up with his votes, which he voted for HR 550, which spends $400 million on a confidential, population-based, computerized database that records immunization doses by any healthcare provider. So there's a lot of other stuff in this bill, and some of it is purposely vague, and I think there's one line that they kind of slipped in that also makes it a little bit different, and that's the maintenance of security standards for personally identifiable information as set forth by the CDC. So that's another little kind of line I think they slipped in there that doesn't sound like much, but these bills that are purposely vague, they are the dangerous ones, and you have to watch out for. So, second one on my list, we've got red flag laws. He's a big supporter of the TAPS Act, which he argues is not a red flag law. Most other people argue that it's basically a red flag law type of thing. The way I see it is that I think it's actually a little bit more evil than a red flag law. Now, it doesn't talk about anything about firearms specifically per se, but it does talk about creating databases of citizens using fusion centers where they collect every government agency's data and collect it all into one centralized point. And now they have a list, and you're going to be on this list, and they are going to create profiles of people based on this list. So I think it's one of those things that it's actually a little bit more evil than an actual red flag law. So take that for what you will, but he has lost my support over the support of that TAPS Act. There was multiple videos of him supporting it, and then you watch these different videos of him, and he attacks it from different angles. I don't think any of it is good. I don't like the TAPS Act, so those two bills, the bill and the red flag law, or the TAPS Act rather, those two things he's lost my complete support over. I could draw the line there and then call it a day. But we will go just a little bit further. All right, so I'm going to toss up a picture here that will explain a lot of things to some people that know what this is. So there he is as one of the young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. If you don't know what the World Economic Forum is, the guy that started it, his name is Klaus Schwab, and in his own words, he penetrates the cabinets of governments worldwide in order to enact his agenda.
What we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young global leaders of the world.
This is when you hear people talk about globalism and a new world order and the Great Reset and Agenda 2030 and all these other things that sound like conspiracy theories. They're not conspiracy theories. They are actual things. And this is the guy that's mainly in charge of pushing all this stuff forward. And he has a ton of power. If you've never heard of him, he's got a ton of power because he controls politicians globally. And once you start to research the World Economic Forum, a lot more things are going to make sense in the world of what's going on. Don't like that at all whatsoever. That's the globalism that people are talking about. That's very, very eye-opening. All right, the next one, we're going to play a video. He was at some kind of town hall or a book signing or something of that nature, and he got asked a question by a 10-year-old girl. This is the video here. It'll be kind of self-explanatory.
Yeah! Crenshaw said, quote, "The most important thing here is that we have important hero archetypes that we look up to. Jesus is a hero archetype, Superman is a hero archetype. Real characters too. I could name 1,000. Rosa Parks, Ronald Reagan. I can't wrap my head around this.
Well, I'll help you. Put a period after the word Jesus and don't question my faith.
Wow.
Okay, that's...
Wow. Way to go, guy.
There's...
You moron.
Look.
Yeah, you don't talk to a kid like that. Yeah, boo.
Don't question my faith.
Oh, okay.
You guys can ask questions about all of these things and I will answer them. But don't question my faith.
I can question your faith if this is what you said.
That's... I mean, you can read the quote again. But nowhere in that quote am I saying Jesus is not real. That's a ridiculous statement. Of course he's the Son of God. Of course he's the Son of God, and of course he's real.
You can say two different things. You can say that on a podcast, and you can say this here.
On the podcast, nobody would have understood it that way. I think you're twisting it that way. Which is not very Christian. Which is not very Christian.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
It's not. And I'm not going to have my faith questioned.
Thank you.
I'm not going to have my faith questioned.
All right, so that video kind of explains itself. It kind of brings together a lot of feelings that I got from him beforehand. Like when he puts out these videos online where he tries to explain things, it almost always seemed like he was annoyed or frustrated at his constituents, or even sometimes even like a little bit angry when somebody questions him. So this video kind of puts that all together. That wasn't just a weird feeling that I was getting from him. It's a real thing. What the little girl was quoting was an episode of the Jocko podcast, number 222. I believe it's about the 20-minute mark in, if you want to look at it yourself. And she quotes him word for word. She's not mincing his words or anything of that nature. She basically just quoted him. And I can see another argument there. If you are very religious, if your faith is important to you, which it's not for me personally, but I can see where that statement is going to upset a lot of people that are Christian or their faith is a big part of their life. All right, moving on. So at the Texas Liberty Alliance PAC, Dan was talking and he called his fellow colleagues in the GOP grifters that are constantly lying, and he's talking about the people in the Freedom Caucus.
Supporting these two. There's actually other veterans in Morgan's race. There's other front runners. But why support these two? Well, because I've been in Congress for almost 3 years now. There's two types of members of Congress. There's performance artists, and there's legislators. Now, the performance artists are the ones that get all the attention. They're the ones you think are more conservative because they know how to say slogans real well. They know how to recite the lines that they know that our voters want to hear. Let me tell you guys something. In the first 2 years of Trump's presidency, when Republicans were in control, when every single time we were voting on Donald Trump's agenda, who do you think was at the top of that list voting with Trump, and who do you think was at the bottom? A lot of names you would recognize were at the bottom of that list. A lot of names you would recognize are at the top of that list. Number two is probably going to make you cringe a little bit. It's Adam Kinzinger. Voted with Trump almost 99%. He was number two. You know who's at the bottom? Everybody in the Freedom Caucus. All of them. What you hear so often is not true. It's not true. We have grifters in our midst. Not here, not like in this room, that's not what I mean. I mean in the conservative movement. Lie after lie after lie because they know something psychologically about the conservative heart. We're worried about what people are going to do to us, what they're going to infringe upon us.
So that part is not that much of a big deal with me per se, but what he said along with that is the bigger deal, at least for me personally, where he said that Adam Kinzinger has voted with Trump 99% of the time and that the people in the Freedom Caucus did not, and they're at the bottom of the list as far as voting in line with Trump. I don't care about that. I don't want you to vote with a person just for the sake of that person being that person, whether it be Trump or anybody else. I want you to vote for freedom, and I want you to vote for what's correct in the world. I don't want you to vote just with a person. Everybody has their pros and cons, so for him to argue that, I don't like it. I want somebody to vote for liberty, for freedom, for reduced government, things of that nature. So make that what you will, but a lot of people are upset that he kind of bashed the Freedom Caucus. But these are the main reasons. Let me know what you think about these. Was this a good list? Do you agree with this list? Did I leave anything out? Do you agree with Crenshaw on a lot of these things? Any comments you have whatsoever on this list of things, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. If you have any video ideas or suggestions, let me know as well. And thank you for watching.